I want you to imagine that you've been preparing for a debate on drugs in sport. And you've got some great ideas and you've researched it well and they all run together nicely. The only problem is, on the day you go to the debate and the topic is on corruption in sport, not drugs in sport. And obviously there is some crossover and there is a bit of a way of making some of the ideas relevant to corruption in sport. But if you go in and just deliver your prepared debate speech on drugs in sport, you're not going to be answering the question. And that's going to be problematic. And this idea is very similar to what happens when you prepare for an essay and then you go into an exam. And what we're looking at today is this idea of a thesis. Okay, and basically what a thesis is your line of argument. So you're going to have prepared an essay to a general question with lots of ideas, and what you're going to have to do when you actually get the question on the day is develop a line of argument, develop a thesis that's going to carry all the way through and provide an argument that is arguing on the right topic. Okay. What you're going to see with a thesis is that it is the way of tying your argument together. And generally speaking, whether it be in this debate or whether it be in your essay, you're going to have some very solid paragraphs developed that build a beautiful argument, and they'll flow from one to the other. But what you need to do is you need to modify your ideas and the way in which you present your ideas so that you're directly answering the question. Normally what will happen is that when you're preparing an essay, you'll prepare to a general question, and so you'll come up with a statement that is quite broad, and then what you'll want to do from there is be able to finesse it. So we could have a general thesis for an essay like this. Stories provide a conduit between fiction and truth, allowing audiences to discover the power of courage and determination. So in this example, we're saying that we're using this broad idea of storytelling, stories and storytelling, and what they do is they provide this ability for a fictional story to reflect on truths, or to present messages to the reader or the viewer. Okay, and what it does is it allows audiences to look at this notion of courage and determination. And so through the story, obviously, the examples that you'll use in your essay will show how the characters in the story, courageous and they're really determined. And that gives us a new understanding of what we thought courageous people were like, or what bravery is. So you could build your argument like that. So when we look at this thesis statement, you'll see that it is not long and complicated. Students like to put probably way too much into the thesis statement. What you want to do is you just want to have an idea, and it's sort of like your team line in a way in a debate. You want to have the main idea that you're going to argue throughout. So each paragraph you're going to be proving that the ability of this story, this fictional story, is in revealing these truths about courage and determination. So every point that you make, you're hoping to build that argument and make it strong. So just like when you're doing a debate, that's pretty much what you're doing. My first point is about this, and this proves this notion of corruption in sport. And so everything that you say wants to tie back into your general thesis. Now let's apply this general thesis to something like Billy Elliot. And we've got the story of Billy's success in achieving his dreams despite the odds enables audiences to better understand the importance of courage and determination in our own lives. So this thesis, the first one was saying that fiction is a conduit to reveal truths about courage and determination, and we've got courage and determination in here. But what we've tried to do is we've tried to make it more direct to the story of Billy Elliot. So despite the odds, so he had a hard upbringing, he was able to achieve his successes. And then what we've done is we're saying that this story enables audiences. This is the thing that I think is the strength of this thesis, that it's this fictional story of Billy achieving success despite his hard upbringing. What it does is it enables audiences or viewers to better understand the importance of courage and determination in our own lives. So we're just taking that step further and being really specific about this fictional story, allowing the modern audience to understand how courage and determination can be applied in their own personal experience. And obviously that's the idea that's going to be developed throughout. So you would imagine that the three examples that are provided in the body paragraphs of the essay are all going to come back, and they're going to show how Billy achieved his success. And it's going to obviously use specific examples from the film and use the language of films. So we're going to look at the music, we're going to look at the use of lighting and motifs of doorways and things like that. And they're going to all reinforce what the modern audience, what the viewer learns about what it is to be courageous and be determined. Okay, let's have a look at this next thesis. I want you to think about it and decide whether this is a good thesis or not. So the discovery of something that had been lost or concealed could lead to individuals to reconsider what they learn. So have a think about that. What's this like? Is it a good or is it a not so good response? Obviously, it's not a good response, and let's talk about why it's not a good thesis. This is way too general. There are far too many holes and ambiguities that we need to look at. The discovery of something. Well, what is that something? So up here we're saying that it's achieving your dreams, and here we're being very general. We want to know what it is. Something that's been lost or concealed. So it is too broad and doesn't give enough impact, or doesn't tell us enough specifics. Then we've got this word could. So here it's very general, isn't it? It's a low modality term, so it's not very strong in what it's saying. It could do that rather than being a strong statement. So it could lead individuals to reconsider what they learn. Okay? So here we're saying, well, what is it that they learn? We don't know. There needs to be a specific statement, doesn't there? So up here it's about courage and determination, and here they're reconsidering, well, what are they reconsidering? And this is where we get to the difference between a B range response and an A range response. And it all comes down to the thesis statement, really. Generally what happens is that students who are strong students are going to have excellent body paragraphs, but it will really be incumbent upon the thesis that they create, the way in which they're answering the question, which will determine whether they're in the B range or the A range. And obviously the A range responses are going to very precisely deal with the question. So what a good thesis does is that it directly addresses the question, and it's really explicit. It's very precise in what it's saying. So quite often you find that students will write the essay that they want to write. Rather than answering the question that's set, they'll say, well, I actually like the way I've prepared it, and so they don't quite deal with the question. And this is really important. So what we need to do when we're writing a thesis statement is be really clear. You've got to address the question, and you've got to be precise in what you're saying, and obviously you want to avoid generalisations. So when we look at this example, it says the novel reveals new truths about the human experience. So this is just a statement within an essay rather than being a thesis statement. But we've got to ask ourselves, well, what are the new truths? We want to be really clear and precise about that. And then, new truths about the human experience. Well, what does that actually mean? So we want to take that and really say, well, this is what I really mean by the human experience, and be specific, be precise, and make some observation. So when we compare this statement to this one, let's look at the difference. This one says, the novel reveals insights into the behaviours of individuals based on their desire to survive oppression. So obviously this idea is about survival and surviving oppression. And so that is the insight that's going to be revealed. It's why they've done that. And when we're looking at that human experience, we can say, well, obviously the characters in the story are pitted in, a wartime experience or something like that. So that's part of the human experience, their experience of human oppression. But it also is saying that the new insights are looking at the behaviours, why individuals behave in particular ways, and why is it? It's because they want to survive. So when you're creating your thesis, there are three things you really need to do. You need to address the question directly. You've got to formulate an argument. So your thesis statement will say, this is what I'm going to argue. My essay is all about this. The second thing you want to do is you want to unify the ideas of your body paragraph. So your thesis statement is really going to be the thing that ties your body paragraphs together. So you might have 3 paragraphs on 3 different characters from the text, or you might be looking at 3 different themes. You might be driving your argument through the forms, the techniques of form. So you've got a couple of paragraphs, and one paragraph is on this type of aspect of form. It reveals this idea and relates to this character and that type of thing. But what your thesis is going to do is it's going to give them purpose. You've got this question, and your thesis, the thing you're going to argue, is going to prove that the 3 body paragraphs actually are relevant to the question that's being asked. And so that gives you cohesion, so your ideas will flow, throughout, and that's really important. And then finally, the thing that is really important is that you do answer the question throughout. So what a lot of students will do is they'll answer the question in the introduction, then they'll just write their prepared essay body paragraphs without really making too much reference to the specifics of the question. And then they'll remember at the end in the conclusion, oh, that's right, I have to answer the question. It's called a top and tail. And that's a great recipe for a B because it's not consistent throughout. So a way to make sure that you are answering the question is to signpost the key words of the question throughout. And obviously you're going to build those into your topic sentences, but use them throughout your essay. And another good thing to do is have synonyms, for the keywords as well, so they're interchangeable. And then that way the marker can see that you're actually dealing with the question. So you need to be adaptable. You have to adapt to the question that's given to you. You can't write just what you've prepared. You've got to do a bit of work to make sure that you're proving what your thesis is saying. You want to clearly interpret the question, so have a clear idea of what you're arguing, and you have to be specific in that sense. Now in the next tutorial we're going to look at the 3 steps. When you get that question, what are the 3 steps you have to do to come up with a thesis, and then we're going to look at some questions and break them down and develop theses from there.